Welcome everyone. My name is Andrew Fazekas here for AWB. Welcome to the Milky Way Star Festival, the second annual time we're doing this. We're so excited. All week long this week, we are really celebrating our home galaxy. This is something we're really is a human it's a collective human event. It's something that we live with and we have a connection to. It's our ancestors have seen the Milky Way for thousands of years, and there's this deep connection, cultural connection to the Milky Way. We today, of course, understand our home galaxy through science and observation, but there are lots of stories out there, cultures that have amazing myths connected to it, and personal stories that are happening today. Folks like you and me going outside and looking up at the Milky Way. We'd love to hear where you're watching this event from, wherever you are around the world. We'd also love to hear your stories. Put them in the comment. Have you ever seen the Milky Way? And what was that experience like for you when you first saw our home galaxy stretched above your eyes there? Along with this program, don't forget to check out our amazing lineup of events that we have here. This is our main page for the Milky Way Star Festival. It's all located on astronomerswithoutborders.org. We'll put a link in the comments section for you. But you just visit astronomerswithoutborders.org. If you go to the homepage, let me show you here quickly. If we go to the homepage, this is what it looks like when you go to Astronomers Without Borders. If you're not familiar with us, we've got all the information about our nonprofit international charity, and there is the banner for the Milky Way Star Festival. Click on that, and that takes you to the homepage for the festival, where we have the video trailer, we have souvenir t-shirts available, thanks to our sponsor Celestron, who have graciously put forward this amazing exclusive t-shirt design with the Milky Way Star Festival logo. We've got lists of speakers, so stay tuned of all the events there. You'll see some of the events coming online already from around the world. We've got another webinar coming probably tomorrow. Stay tuned. In the next few hours, we'll probably have that secured. Amazing adventures of a photographer who travels the world for great publications like National Geographic and doing workshops in deep sky reserves as well, all about how to photograph the Milky Way. We also have a deep sky tour of the Milky Way with virtual telescope project from Rome, Italy, that's scheduled for this Friday at 2100 Universal Time. You don't want to miss that. So we'll get a tour through a robotic telescope of some of the deep sky objects visible across the Milky Way. And then we'll also have an amazing finale for the Milky Way Star Festival of a live stream where you'll see the Milky Way strewn out in all its beauty, and of course, nature's fireworks show scheduled for this weekend, August 12th, 13th, will be the Perseid meteor shower. And to see that shower, of course, you need dark skies. That's the best. So getting out of the city, which means you'll not only see the shower, but also the Milky Way. So we'll have you covered with this beautiful live event from China, no less, from a beautiful countryside part of China. We'll have more details coming up in the next few days, so stay tuned. We also have stories about the Milky Way, cultural stories, personal stories. You can add yours. We'd love to see you add your stories, so there's ways to do it. You can add your stories and events there. We have an observing guide to the Milky Way available, photographing the Milky Way. We've got workshops covered for you with our partners at the International Astronomical Union, the OAO group, also the Office for Astronomy Outreach, and AWB came together, have done a series of workshops around the world talking about how to use your smartphone to photograph things like the Milky Way. So check that out, and we have a growing gallery of photographs that you can enjoy of some really exquisite artwork showing the Milky Way from different dark regions and even suburban regions around the world, and you can add yours there too as well. So lots of different things for us to do. It'll be a lot of fun, I am sure, for each and every one of you of celebrating the Milky Way. So let's see. Now, let me just go over here to our site here. Let me just switch over. There we go. So today we've got a really neat event. It's a webinar that we have about the cultural perspectives of the Milky Way. And this is from one of our own members here, and also a member of the Royal Astronomical Society. In fact, the past president of Astronomical Society, Charles Ennis, is our guest today. He got his first telescope as a child, but when he got involved with law enforcement career, working night shifts, that basically interfered with his passion for astronomy. I hear you, Charles. I've been there myself. Charles retired from his career in law enforcement back in April of 2013. He bought a new telescope. He joined the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, and within months he became their media director, and then became the president of the Sunshine Coast Center. In 2016, he became the national secretary for RASC. and served as the national president as well in 2022 till just this year, 2023, when he passed the baton. Charles has served on the editorial board and is the author of the book Building a Small Observatory, published in multiple editions, and the Solar Observer's Handbook, published in 2017. He's the editor of multiple editions of the Explore the Universe Handbook by Rask, and he served on the fundraising committee, finance committee, coordinator of the public speakers program. This man has done all sorts of things at the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, and he's the co-founder of the Inclusivity and Diversity Committee and has been doing presentations on sky cultures of the world since 2017. And he's also founded, get this, the World's Asterisms Project. Maybe we can find out more about that from Charles himself. Let's see if we can get Charles right here on our show. Let's see if we can get Charles. Charles, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey! Hey,
Thanks,
Charles.
Andrew.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Hey, so nice to be here. Man, you are a man of many talents. You've been like doing so much volunteer work at the Royal Astronomical Society. It's amazing. I'm a fellow rascal myself, so I totally understand the draw to this, and I want to know about your discovery of the night sky. Before we jump into your presentation, just briefly, what draws you to the night sky over so many years?
I'm an eyepiece guy. I like to see it live, right at the eyepiece. Recently got involved in astrophotography. My wife is more interested in that and is becoming quite good at that. But I'm an astronomy educator. I like to do what I call the interview effect. All the astronauts, been over 600 now, have gone up there and looked back and seen the Earth and then experience something called the overview effect, which gives them a whole new respect for the environment and what we've got to deal with down here. You could do pretty much the same thing down here by giving people an idea of what the scale of things is at the eyepiece and showing them what's out there. I call it the underview effect. And so I get a charge out of getting people look at the eyepiece for the first time and you hear them take that intake of breath and say, yeah, I gotcha. It's good. The World Asterisms Project is a great opportunity to work on this stuff. We founded this a little over 2 years ago. I'm the lead on that. We're working with ethno-astronomers all over the world to gather sky cultures from over 570 cultures so far and over 14,000 asterisms. And the Milky Way is one of those asterisms. It's a huge asterism, and the way you view it from what part of the world you view it makes a big difference as to what your perspective is. So I look forward to telling you about that today.
That's awesome, Charles. Let's boot up your presentation here. Let me just get that going.
Okay.
Get it here. There we go. And we've got it up on screen, your first slide.
Okay, well, what I want to start by doing is welcome you from wherever you are in the world. And with the second slide, I want to gratefully acknowledge that I view the sky and work on the unceded lands of the Seashell First Nation. So the next slide, I want to talk today about the views in your neighborhood, the various cultural perspectives of the Milky Way. And the reason I want to do this for the next slide, one of the things I have noticed working at the observatory over the years is a very, very common question that I get with people looking up from the observatory is, what's that glowing cloud in the sky? And very quickly realize that a lot of people out there, about 2/3 of the world in fact, don't see the Milky Way because of the misuse of artificial light at night. And my answer to them is, of course, with the next slide, it's the Milky Way. It's our home. There was an event that happened in California in January of 1994 where there was an earthquake at night and it knocked out the power. And people were running out, things were collapsing, glass was breaking, and in the first hour, they had 1,000 calls to 911, people saying, what is that glowing cloud in the sky? Is a nuclear reactor blown up or something? Nobody recognized the Milky Way. They'd never seen it. And the reason for this, this is our heritage. Our ancestors saw this and described it and put all kinds of things up there. But in the modern world, two-thirds of the population can't see it because you can't see the sky because of all the artificial light reflecting off of dust and water vapor and so on. The next slide, I'm just showing you a view from the International Space Station, and you can see all of this light going up into the sky lighting nothing, basically. It's not that it was intended to light the sky, it's just nobody realizes this is what is happening, and it's interfering with the flight of birds, it's interfering with people's circadian rhythms, and, as you can see in the next slide, costs an enormous amount of money. We waste over $1 billion a year lighting nothing. And the consequence is a limited vista. You have city dwellers who can occasionally catch glimpses of the faces of the moon between high-rise buildings, but they can't see a whole lot else. And that means, the next slide, the whole generations of people are unable to see the sky because all they can really see is the reflection of light off of concrete and steel and glass. So this is one of the reasons we got involved in this World Asteroids project. You can see here that our logo here was created by a couple of our members. We call it the Connector. It connects 3 constellations, Bootes, Leo, and Virgo. And all of the 4 stars in that are double stars. So far, how many different views have we got of the Milky Way in this project? We've got 437. And I'm not going to try to cover them all today because some very, very interesting and unique ones, standalones. We tried to do that, we're going to be here for 8 hours. So what I'm trying to do today is show you themes that occur, some which cross cultures, some which do not, and the reasons why that would happen. And so what are we missing by not seeing the Milky Way? Well, we're missing beautiful views of the sky like this from Earth's sky. You've got really spectacular views. One of the interesting things that I discovered in putting this presentation together was when you try to search for photos that are directly related to the themes that I'm going to tell you about, it's really hard to do. There's thousands of pictures of the Milky Way, but they're mostly all labeled Milky Way, and I think that's because it just makes it easier to search for and find when you're searching online. But you can get some really great pictures like this one from Judy Volker, which shows a First Nations view of the sky. So to start with, a lot of cultures do today use the name Milky Way. As you can see here, there are variations like Pathway, Milk River, Milk Circle, Milk Road. It's all a translation thing, but you'll notice that these are all pretty much limited to the Northern Hemisphere, which is where it originated. It originated in ancient Greece. It came to us as Via Lactea through the Roman culture and was disseminated as people translated Arabic star charts into Latin and started building up European observations. But there is a lot of other things that you can see up here. Here's a picture of the Via Lactea. This was actually labeled Via Lactea with the person that took it, Angel Ojeda, and it's a wonderful picture. You can see dust clouds. You can see the core there. But there are other ways up there in the sky. One very common theme in Belarusian skies, Ukrainian, Latvian, is the bird's way or the goose way. And they can see this as a whole lot of birds flying across the sky. You also have a fiery way from ancient Roman culture, Via Ignea. You've got different ways named for different mythological and historical figures. You've got Earring's Way or Erman's Way, which is Old Saxon, Anglo-Saxon, Old High German. You've got the Milk Pathway, Santiago's Way, or the Way of St. James of Galicia, which are from the Basque culture. You've got the Way of Straw, which shows up in John Hill's Urania in 1754. He was a botanist that was very interested in astronomy and created a whole lot of asterisms that we've captured. They're no longer in the sky, but you can still find them. You can look them up on our World Asterisms list. Way to Jerusalem is another Belarusian version, and the White Way of Our True Lord, and that's a reference to Hachkadium, which is a Lacandon deity. So there are all kinds of other ways out there, and if we look at the Belarusian sky here, there's the Goose Way from Belarusia. Now, going to the next slide here, I'm looking at the Milky Way from the southern hemisphere. And the reason that I'm specifically doing this is because if you've lived your entire life in the northern hemisphere and you have seen the Milky Way, you're looking up at it at night. What you're doing is you're looking into the galaxy that we live in, edge on, and you're looking out into intergalactic space. When I'm at my observatory, I can see the middle part of the Milky Way right down, tucked at the horizon with the spout of the teapot pointing at the center of it there, but the rest of it spread across the sky is looking out into intergalactic space. If you are in the southern hemisphere, you're looking right into the center of the galaxy. And as a result, you're seeing a lot more dust clouds and a lot more interesting features than we can see in the northern hemisphere. And this makes a big difference to how people view the skies and how what cultures do with it. For example, one of the things that happens, as you can see in this slide, is dark asterisms. People take those dark clouds that are silhouetted against the stars of the Milky Way and turn those into constellations. This is an Inca sky, and you can see all of these different creatures, which are dust clouds, and there's only one spot there. There's a little arrow pointing to the two stars there. That's Alpha and Beta Centauri, original Centaurus and Hadar. And those are the eyes of the mother llama in this particular piece of the sky. Another one, this next slide will show you, this is the emu or the rhea or the ostrich, depending on what part of the sky, of the world you're in. It's an emu if you're in Australia, cultures all over. You can see the head over to the left there with the bright star as the eye and the body spread out to the right. But if you're in South America, they know it as a rhea, same family of birds, but one that they're familiar with. And if you're in Africa, this is for many cultures an ostrich, only visible from the southern hemisphere. Now, another theme that shows up with the Milky Way is backbones, spines, and necks. Now, if you look at the cultures that are listed on the right there, you can see these are all African. When they look up at the sky, a lot of these cultures, they see the night's backbone, they see the backbone of the sky, God's back or God's path, the sky neck, the sky support, a sky spine, spine of the night, even raised bristles on the backbone of the sky. And so this is a particular theme that you don't see outside of Africa, really. And if we take a look at the next slide, you can see a picture. Now, this isn't from Africa, but I thought it really does sort of illustrate that spine image. It was taken by Pefefe on Pefefe6 on Twitter. It's a wonderful photo, but in the one after that, we're looking at Night's backbone, and this was a picture that was taken in Namibia by Raphael Pons. And that gives you an idea of how it's viewed from there and how it would lead them to view it in that manner. Now, in the next slide, well, I'm going to show you another common theme, which is serpents, snakes, and sea monsters. Now you can see we're drifting over into the South Pacific, into Polynesian territory, but even into South American skies with this one. You can see an anaconda there, bull serpent, cosmic monsters, rain serpents, dragon stars, eel bellies, fabulous marine creatures. Fer-de-lance is a type of snake. Maui's fish, great mythological figure from Maori legend, the great fish, king sharks, life-giving serpents, all kinds of other sharks and fish, sea dragons and sea snakes, and spirits of long water monsters and water monsters all along there. Now, this is something that you would expect to see, because these cultures are all very closely related to navigating the open ocean, to navigation systems involving the sky, and asterisms that they use to accomplish those long voyages. So if we look at the next slide here, we're looking at one of those from that. This is Naga, which is a Japanese sea serpent. And it actually, with the clouds that were in this photo when this was taken, this shows up on a Buddhist website, it also looks like a whale to me, but it's an amazing perspective. But there were other creatures as well. It's the abode of jaguars, a drum containing animals, an entrance to cattle enclosure, a hairy rib vault, which is the inside of a cow's stomach, a landfish, in other words, a lizard in the sky, the long lizard of morning, raven's tracks. It's a resting place of the lightning bird, which is another name for a rainbow. It's a spider web in various cultures, and it's the tail of the lizard. And you can see now we're including First Nations North American skies in this, but we still are overlapping into African skies. And um, this is people looking up at the sky and relating it to things that are common in their culture. So the type of animal that you see, like jaguars from South America, is the sort of thing that you would not see in North America. So part of the way this is turning out is it's people relating what they're familiar with in their culture. In this next slide, I'm showing you a picture which is specifically labeled resting place of the lightning bird. So now we are looking at a beautiful picture of this guy showing you what they see when they look in that direction. It even shows up in cultures as trees. You can see here, this isn't that common a list, and this is probably going to grow. Our World Asterisms project is expanding continually. We're constantly adding stuff to it. But so far, we've got giant tree, tree of life, world tree, that are all directly related to what they see when they look at the Milky Way. Now, you see the tree showing up as a connection to the sky in other cultures. In Aboriginal Australian culture, there are all kinds of stories about their people getting into the sky by climbing the highest tree. All kinds of interesting stories related to their asterisms. And I encourage you to look at our World Asterisms Handbook, because you'll find those stories. But in this next slide, I found this picture, again from Africa, and I think it really ties in very well to that theme of the tree in the Milky Way. This is by Steffi Lieberman. Now, another really common theme that you run into when you're dealing with cultures in the Milky Way is ash. Ash is smoke and dust. And here again, we're looking at a lot of different cultures, many of them Australian, some of them North American First Nations, some of them African. And you can see all of these uh, people seeing this as some sort of smoke coming up from a fire, from celestial grass, or from particular fires of ancestors in the sky. There is an African story about a girl who is frustrated and picks up a handful of embers and ashes and throws it into the sky, and that's what creates the stars and the Milky Way that we see. And then this next picture was a really interesting picture somebody took from an area where there was an active volcano happening, and you can see how easily somebody could see that, relate that as smoke in the sky. Now, one of the larger categories, and I've just managed to jam them all in here, is viewing the Milky Way as a river. And this is a very common way of viewing the Milky Way the world over. You can see a very wide mixture of cultures there over on the right, of people who are not just naming it a river, but naming it as a specific river, like it's the Lacan River, it's the Nile, it's the Yellow River, it's a specific river like the Vilcanota River, which often what they see this as is an extension of the river that runs through their world, which goes off into the sky. So you see an awful lot of people who are doing that. And as an example here, I'm just going to use Australian skies, where Warrnambool is what they call the Milky Way, which is a Warrnambool is a watercourse or an overflow channel on Earth with water only during flood times. And this Warrnambool in the sky is one that doesn't ever run out of water, and it is directly related to their ancestors and where they go when they go into the afterlife and so on. And there you see a drawing of the emu in the sky, the Gawarge, which is silhouetted against it. And they also use the position of the Gawarge and the Milky Way to indicate what season they're in. They have specific stories related to the position of the emu in the sky as the year goes on. So it's sitting on the ground in a water pond at one point. It's in the sky at other times, and it signals specific times when they can go out and forage for specific things. And this is something you see in all sorts of other cultures where, for example, in South American skies, it's very common to use different views of the Milky Way to indicate it's in a different position and this is a different season now. Another thing that you see a lot when you're looking at the Milky Way is trails. And these are, as you can see here, First Nations North American here, just about exclusively now. We're looking at animal trails, people's trails, trails of mythical creatures, endless trails, forest trails, snowshoers trails. Spirit paths is a very, very common version of this, spirit trails, because a lot of these stories relate to this being a path that the ancestors take to the other world. Trail of the dead, trail of the spirits. You've got several different versions of Traveler's Trail or Yadi's Trail. This is northern skies where they have one asterism in the sky. It takes up the whole sky. It's Yadi the Traveler looking over us all. And this is his trail, the Milky Way. It's a wolf trail for the Blackfoot. So I've grabbed this picture here from Manitoba First Nation showing that trail in the sky. Now it's also a road. Now we can see this is getting into all kinds of other cultures. We're looking at cultures all over Asia, Eastern Europe, North American First Nations. You're seeing getting into Central and South America. You're getting into Arabic skies even. And these, again, are roads that are sometimes related to spirits, ghost roads, spirit roads. Sometimes they're a joyful road, the road hanging in the sky, the dew road, the stingray road, road to the afterworld, road to Santiago, who is the god of thunder and lightning for the Chorti, road of water or rain, lizards, sea turtles, the road of Odin's wagon, if you're ancient Norse guys, road of frost. And I was looking specifically because there are references to Bifrost, that mythical road to Valhalla in Norse myth, for a picture depicting the Milky Way as Bifrost. And if we look in this, in a few minutes, I'm going to be showing you a slide that I was able to capture for that. But you can see here in this slide, this road going off towards the Milky Way. This is a wonderful picture from Wallpaper Flare. You can see how you can picture this as the road disappearing off up into the sky. Now, the biggest category is paths, and I've had to split this in two to fit it all in. It's very, very often described all over the world as a path to some place or other. So it's a bird path, eternal path, footpath, hunter's ski path, the milk pathway, a Muslim's path. It's paths to various different places, to the elephants, for the gods, for the migrating birds. There's the Rhea again, path of the shamans, path of souls. And looking at African skies, you can easily see in this particular picture here from Tanzania that this is definitely something that people could view as a path in the sky. Going back to paths again, path of the sun, the taper, wolves, path to Rome, if you're Basque, path of the land of souls to the underworld road, if you're Mayan or Quiche, Santiago's way again, it's the spirit path. There are all kinds of different views that are related to this being a path, usually for ancestors as spirits, but not always. It could be commemorating some particular uh, path of some famous person or ancestor. So in this next slide here, I was looking for this picture of the Bifrost in the sky, and I got Fred Espenak's picture of the Milky Way and the Bifrost Observatory, and I went, okay, not quite what I was looking for, but it's a great picture, and it sort of does remind me of the Bifrost pathway, so we'll take that. Another thing that you see uh, very often in descriptions of the Milky Way in various cultures is a track in the sky. And this is, again, often related to spirits, the dead ancestors. There's the traveler's trail again. We're looking at Yadi and his path in the sky. So we've got Romanian skies, we've got Northern First Nations skies, we've got uh, African skies, all kinds of different angles that we're coming at and ending up with the Traveler's Trail. This one was actually labeled the Traveler's Trail. This was from a CBC story where they were talking about those northern people and how they viewed the sky. So those are all the common themes that you can see in the sky. These are all the directions that you can go, and every single one of those has got a story attached to it. And like I said, I can't tell you all of those stories because, first of all, the way that we work in the World Asterisms Project is it's my job to show you the stars and tell you about those, but it's the responsibility of the knowledge keepers whose stories these are to tell you those stories, and I respect that. I don't want to tell a story that isn't mine. So please go. If we see here links here to the World Asterisms Project, you can just go to Google and put in World Asterism Project, enter, and it'll be the first hit you get. There's lots of people going there. Go to the RASC website, you'll find it there. All of these asterisms, the handbooks, the lists, the list of solar system objects, all of that stuff is a free download. Later today, I'm doing the next upload of the handbook. We've been working hard on adding all kinds of ancient skies in there, and it's there for you to use. We hope that you find it interesting and do go look at the Milky Way list because there's all kinds of one-off, really interesting, beautiful names that I didn't even get a chance to touch on today because they were outside of those themes that I talked about. But there's other stuff for you to find there, and I think I'd like to make it a challenge and have you go there and look for yourself and see what there is there. And so if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Hey, that's wonderful, Charles. Wow. I can't believe all the things you packed into that. The amount of, of names there are, the references, it's unbelievable. I can't believe how many places this exists, the references and the variety. It really shows how deep the connection is that humanity overall has this connection with the Milky Way.
If you can see the Milky Way, and as I said, a lot of people in the modern world are having trouble with that. I'm very fortunate where I am here that I have a dark enough sky that you can do that. You can see that it does turn, with the sky, and so you can see how it could be used by people as a part of their calendar to keep track of their agriculture or their fishing or whatever else that they're doing,
Yeah, it's interesting you bring this up because that's what I was just about to say is that today's society, we're just, so cosmopolitan and we're kind of detached from the skies above. And the Milky Way, the views of the Milky Way are just so sensitive to light pollution that
they are.
We've got generations of people who've never seen the Milky Way. But yet it's there, and the fact is that it was a very present. What I'm seeing from your presentation is telling me it was a very present, big entity in the in the storytelling in the lives of people. It was there. It was like I mean at night once it's turned dark, there was no electricity hundreds of thousands of years ago, and there was this glow, this bright glow above their heads.
Yes, I mean, there are all kinds of asterisms now that are considered to be telescopic, which originally were recorded by people with the unaided eye centuries ago before there were telescopes, and the Andromeda Galaxy is something you can see in a good dark sky, and it's incorporated into versions of Andromeda in early culture, but you don't see it included anymore because it's hard to see in a light polluted sky. And I don't want to suggest that the reason that I'm concerned about not seeing the sky is just that I'm an astronomer and I want to see the sky. What bothers me is billions of birds dying exhausted in urban settings because they can't see the stars to navigate and they get lost. People that have all kinds of problems because it interferes with their circadian rhythms. It makes it the lighting is improperly used, so it blinds people with cataracts at night. If they did the lighting properly, they would not only see the sky and save a huge amount of money, but they would make it possible for our elders to get out at night safely, you know? So it's kind of a canary in the coal mine, the fact that we can't see this thing, and it's something that we can fix and should start working towards fixing.
Exactly. There's like definitely a practical component to this, you know, and it affects not just humans but wildlife as well. I mean, it's nature at large, and but it's fascinating to see how far back in time this goes, how ancient this is, the variety of how. The beauty of the human mind, of what they can come up with, the storytelling and what they're seeing, and I can definitely through those photographs see, you know, like the backbone, being able to see almost like that spine, giant spine, or seeing a road, a trail off to somewhere in a distance. It really makes the mind kind of, you know, just wander. It's just so amazing. And
These tend not to be labeled, like I said, when you're looking on the internet with their original cultural names. They tend to be labeled with the name that we use on official star charts now, which is the Milky Way. There's 88 of them, but I mean, they've been all kinds of other things besides, and there's all kinds of constellations that were up there that aren't anymore, like. So this is an interesting place to go looking for them in the World Astrophysics Project. You've got all kinds of other views of the sky as well.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, I mean, in terms of contributing, so maybe there's someone watching there and going, well, I know of something, I'd love to add something. So how does that work? How being able to add?
If you go to the World Astrophysics page, there is a link there. You can email us and you can share. We'd love you to share what you've got. Don't assume that what you have in your culture, because it's some major culture, is something we already have. It's very, very common, for example, in European cultures to have the standard view of the sky, but you go out into the country and the farmers have a different view that relates to their world, and hunters another. And, you know, we have people who are at the eyepiece of a telescope looking up at the sky and like, you know, that looks like fill in the blank, right? And they sit on it. And I want to know about those, because we will share those on the list. We have lots of examples of that. And you may be surprised that you may have discovered something that somebody has already seen as well. So I definitely encourage you, wherever you are in the world, to contact us, to share this stuff with us. And one of the things that we need help with very often, this involves a lot of different cultures and languages. And so we have some that are listed on there that we have the original name, but I don't have a translation. I don't know what it means. So if you go to the list and you see something we could have translated and you can do that for us, we'd love you to help us do that. This is all sweat equity, volunteer work. It doesn't. There's no funding for this. We're all doing this as volunteers, and we've accomplished a great deal just doing that because it's a passion for us, you know.
It's absolutely amazing, and it's something that you guys are sharing with the world. I mean, this is part of the world's heritage, right?
Some people suggested early on, hey, you could make this into a book and make money. Yeah, I could, but we won't, because I want to share this with the whole world. We want to make this available to investigators, to ethnoastronomers, archaeoastronomers, anybody that needs this information to help do their research and their stories. We're in the process now of helping several First Nations recover their skies. The Halifax Center helped the Mi'kmaq recover the use of their skies. I'm working very closely, for example, with Dr. Sheen Pete at UBC. He's recovering Salish skies. And one of the ways that he can figure out what he's looking at accounts that were written by people centuries ago where they are describing a sky and they're using a sky that was familiar to them, which is not necessarily familiar to people now because the maps then weren't standard. And so the sort of stuff that we've got in this project is helping them understand what they were looking at. Oh, okay, so you're actually looking at Cassiopeia, but that's not what they called it, or whatever, you know. So
Right.
if somebody is doing a project and they're trying to find out whether it's aligned to stars in the sky, some structure, some temple on the Earth, you can come up with alignments very easily that were never intended, but they just happen to be there because there's 4,000 stars in the sky. So the next thing you do is you come to the ethno-astronomers, you come to a project like this and you say, so what were these people looking at? And then you can say, okay, now that probably was an alignment they intended because obviously this was something big in their culture. So we're all working together to help rebuild the stories that are lost. And we are losing them as elders are passing. You know, their stories are leaving with them, and it is from those stories that we are recovering a lot of this stuff. So there's a certain amount of urgency to this. We're very cognizant of the fact that we're caretakers, we're stewards of this information, and we're trying to do this in as respectful a manner as possible.
Yeah, exactly. There's a window of opportunity that's limited in being able to, capture these stories before they're lost forever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So this is really a World Heritage Project. It belongs to the world. You're sharing it with the world, which is amazing. The Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, kudos to you guys. It's an awesome project. More power to you guys. We've put the links to the project in the comment section, so people can just click on it right there. I highly encourage you to take a look, visit, just peruse it. It's absolutely, I mean, the amount of work that's gone into it, it's mind-numbing really to see the amount that's there. It really is an education, I think.
And we're not done. My inbox looks like this.
So there's a lot, and you're encouraging people to step up and contribute. We need people to contribute this. So wherever you are around the world, take a look at that list. See if the story that you're familiar with is there. If it's not, then write Charles and let them know that you have a story that you'd like to share and add to this.
There's one other thing I just want to throw out there, and this is from the Hawaiian people who did lose some of their sky culture, but back in 1976 made a replica voyaging canoe so that they could relearn their navigational skills. And we're looking for a navigator and found the Satwalese navigator, Maupiluk, who said, yep, same stars, we can show you how to use them. And, if you look at Polynesian culture, all the other similar families, languages around here, you can probably recover a lot of the asterisms, the patterns that you had in the sky. And they have, but some of them you may not. Name them again. It'll still be your name, but give it a new name. So, for example, the constellation Orion now is called the cat's cradle, because that's a game you do with children in Polynesian culture with strings in your fingers. So if you are one of those cultures out there and you're saying, I'm afraid that we lost it, well, go out there and name it again. Make it yours. The skies belong to everyone.
That's awesome. Well said, Charles. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. This was really special. Very well timed for our Milky Way Star Festival. Make people think big. That's what this is about, and let's all be proud as humans of our ingenuity, of what we've been able to pass on, and that's what you're helping here, is preserve and pass on this world heritage of humanity. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
This is awesome. And folks, if you're interested in this, remember all the links are in the chat section. It's rask.ca is the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada's website. There's a link you'll find in there for the World Asterism Project, but there's also the link there we've directly to the World Asterism Project. You can go there, and I have to tell you folks, it is incredible to go there and peruse that library, that living archive. That's really what it is. It truly is living. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in to this webinar. We'll be having an announcement very shortly of our next live stream coming up in the next 24 hours. You don't want to miss that one. That will be about astrophotography, adventures of capturing the Milky Way in some really cool places by a professional who works with National Geographic and other publications. Jeff Burks will be joining us, so don't miss that. And we'd love to hear your stories, your Milky Way stories, your photographs, your cultural stories, personal stories, whatever they are. Do send them our way. Even artwork. We'd love to see artwork and poetry, all of that for the Milky Way Star Festival. We'd love to hear what you have in your neck of the woods. So do join us all week long. And don't forget the live streams this weekend. We'll be finishing off this festival with a live stream from China, looking at the Perseid meteor shower in front of the backdrop of the Milky Way from a really remote site in China. We'll have more information about that in the coming days. So stay watching astronomerswithoutborders.org, where you'll find everything to do with the Milky Way Festival. Well, that's it, guys. Stay safe and healthy. I'm your host, Andrew Fazakis, here for Astronomers Without Borders. As always, we wish all of you guys clear skies. And don't forget our motto here at AWB, one people, one sky. Stay safe. Bye-bye, guys.
From the pale blue dot to the distant stars, we are one. One people, one sky.